Hello and welcome to GameSack. It's been 13 years since there was an episode dedicated to the GameCube, and we covered surprisingly few games in that episode. Most of them were relegated to a dumb montage. So I wanted to give proper recognition to more games on the console because I love it. Now, I did do a console overview in that first episode, but I want to do another one again real quick, so check it out. It's the Nintendo Gamecube. It has games on little discs that hold 1.46 gigabytes of data. It has a controller that looks like it was blasted with a shotgun full of Play-Doh. This would be the final time that Nintendo competed in terms of hardware power, with a 32-bit PowerPC CPU running at 486 MHz, which with the help of the rest of the hardware could push up to 12 million polygons per second during gameplay. The console saw over 650 released games in its roughly 6-year lifespan. That's right, I didn't even have the console disassemble itself in that first episode. Man, why were we so lazy? But man, I love the GameCube during its time. It was really sad to see it come in at third place. But enough of that, let's get into the games. First up, we have Star Fox Adventures from Rare. Originally, this was a game being made for the Nintendo 64 which had nothing to do with Star Fox. Then Nintendo decided that it needed to be a Star Fox game instead, and then they decided to move it to the GameCube here. The game definitely benefits from being on the GameCube. You start off by playing as a purple furry doing various things for whatever reason. You learn as you go. You play as her for a short while, and then you're finally able to play as Star Fox. Yes, as far as I'm concerned, his name is Star Fox. This starts with an actual Star Fox-like sequence where you fly through rings and the like. This part isn't bad at all. Then you're running around Dinosaur Planet aimlessly until you find the staff that the purple furry girl dropped. You can use the staff to attack and do other things. The game is a bit cryptic and I forget exactly what I need to do here with my staff upgrade. It seems simple enough, but I'm probably overthinking it. Still, it's honestly not a bad game, but a lot of people were disappointed that it wasn't a real Star Fox game. I agree, I think it would have been better received had it been its own IP as originally intended. Preferably on the GameCube instead of the Nintendo 64. There's also Star Fox Assault from Namco, which came out 3 years later. Maybe this can give us the proper Star Fox experience. Well, it certainly starts off that way. This is a nice on-rail shooter, and it's pretty fun. You're out in space, and you need to take down lots of big enemy ships. Then you fly down to the planet, and the shooter action continues. This is pretty awesome. Soon, you find yourself at the first boss fight in the game, where you need to attack the flashing parts, just like classic Star Fox. Namco got it right. Watch out because you're not done. Another boss comes in. You guessed it, attack the flashing pink parts and keep dodging attacks. And then, oh wait, the next level you're running around on foot. Why? Well, at least it moves briskly, even if the controls are a bit weird. In these parts of the game, there are targets on your map to hunt down and destroy. Once you destroy all of the targets, they add some more to your map. After you get all of those, then more are added again. You can also drive this powerful Landmaster vehicle, which takes a couple of minutes to get used to. Then you're fighting the next boss, which of course only the Landmaster can hurt.
Don't let it shake you off, boss.
Some stages are hybrid foot action and ship action. You can hop in the ship at any time, take off, and then fly around and destroy targets. In this mode, you can fly anywhere. It's not linear or on rails at all. You can land at any time and continue taking out all of the targets you need to get while you're on foot. The graphics are generally quite good, but the frame rate gets cut in half for anything that's not an on-rail shooter section. Overall, I feel that this is the better Star Fox game of the two, but it still feels like Nintendo doesn't want us to have a proper Star Fox game anymore. They really want the series to be something else, anything else. Who knows why?
Whoa, get off me! Ouch! Woo! Thanks, Max.
Next, we have Skies of Arcadia Legends from Sega. This cult game was originally released on the Dreamcast, and the GameCube here got the only port of it. This is a traditional JRPG, but it takes place in the skies. Bet you didn't guess that. You fly around on your ship and then suddenly the screen breaks apart and you're in a turn-based random battle. You have your various moves and S moves here to help you win the fight and get gems and all the other stuff you get in an RPG game. One thing that they did tone down here on the GameCube is the random battle encounter rate. It's noticeably less annoying here as it happens far less often and they load a bit faster as well, helping to preserve some of your sanity. Oh, and I really like the C-stick when walking around on foot. It feels quite natural in helping control the camera. There's a bit more content in here compared to the Dreamcast game in the form of a few new side quests. The music quality is also slightly worse in some regards to the original game, but it's not a huge issue, especially if you haven't played the original. And unlike the Dreamcast game, this is all on one disc. A lot of people are yearning for a sequel or at least a modern remake. I've never been really hugely into this one, but lots of people love it, so maybe give it a go if you like JRPGs.
Moons, give me strength.
I really like the Shining Force games on the Sega console, so guess what game I'm covering next? What's that? Fire Emblem? No! Well, maybe later if you're good. Here's Mario Golf Toadstool Tour from Nintendo and Camelot. Camelot is known for the Shining Force series, so they're a natural developer to head up a golf game. I like video game golf, which means you have to suffer through this one if you don't. No skipping ahead allowed. This is a very fun and quite accessible game of video golf here. To hit the ball, you only need to tap the button twice, unlike the familiar 3-tap system of most other golf games. However, you can still play it 3-tap style if your second tap is the B button instead of the A button. This can be kind of awkward since you always have to start the swing with the A button. I would have liked it if 3-tap was all B button and 2-tap was all A button. Oh well, I just use the 2-tap method here and I still have lots of fun. You'll unlock plenty of courses as you play. The game moves quite swiftly and you'll play an 18-hole game in no time. The visuals are very nice and I love the detail. The music is okay, but I can't really say that I enjoy the quality of the synth that they used. Still, this is a great game of golf for everyone.
Nice on. Birdie putt. Nice bird. Very well done.
Here's 1080-degree Avalanche from Nintendo of America. This, of course, is a sequel to the Nintendo 64 original simply called 1080-degree Snowboarding. Compared to the likes of games like SSX, this one is more about the racing than the tricks and the stunts. Though there are still modes where you can play and focus on that. I personally appreciate that because I never care about doing tricks in these types of games. I mean, okay, maybe sometimes. Still, that might be why I suck at them. That's okay, I suck at this one too. I like the mode where you need to go through all of the gates, even though the game barely gives you enough time. It's also one of the few GameCube games to feature a LAN mode, so fire up that broadband adapter if you have one installed. I do, used it once, but not for this game. The graphics here are quite nice, except for the extremely inconsistent frame rate. The music features a licensed soundtrack, which I've turned off for this recording. If you're decent at snowboarding games, give this one a go. This one's called Eternal Darkness, and it's from Silicon Knights. It's kind of a survival horror game, but not really. You start out by playing as this chick whose granddad has just been murdered. You're searching for clues in his mansion when you find the Book of Tomes. That's when you discover that you are just the hub world of the game. You start to play as different characters throughout time by reading pages in the book. You attack with your weapon, but you can choose where to attack an enemy by holding the R button and pressing the analog stick to apart to attack. It takes a bit of getting used to before you're comfortable doing it in the midst of battle. Fortunately, most enemies don't move very quickly. In the first chapter of the game, you make a choice. Whichever of these 3 artifacts you choose determines how the rest of your game will be. It's a good way to add replayability, but it also acts as kind of a difficulty select. Another aspect of this game is the sanity meter. That's the green vial of fluid in the top left corner which appears on screen when it raises or lowers. We all know that sanity is a physical green fluid, right? When you encounter enemies, it lowers, and that's not good. If it gets too low, you get a Dutch angle, and if it gets even lower, you can hallucinate enemies that you'll have to deal with. Killing enemies and then doing a finishing move on them will help restore a little bit of sanity. That makes sense. I say that this is a good game overall, and is quite unique. A sequel was planned, but it never happened. I guess they even tried to kickstart one a while back as well. You'd think a sequel to a game like this would get the full funding from Nintendo. I think it'd be a great exclusive game for the exciting new Nintendo Switch 2 video game console. Can you believe that in the original GameCube episode 13 years ago, we didn't mention Super Mario Sunshine from Nintendo? I'm not sure why, maybe we forgot that it existed or something. That kind of tracks for me, as this is probably my least favorite 3D Mario game, but it certainly is unique. You use the flood contraption that you get in the beginning of the game to clean up the town. Wow, this is fun, cleaning up dirty stuff with water. Who would enjoy this? Well, okay, I guess I do because I've played like a bazillion hours of Power Wash Simulator on the PlayStation 5. So yeah, just ignore that critique. You can also use the flood to hover for a while when you jump. Once you get used to the controls, they work pretty well. The camera can still fight you at times though. It really took the industry a while to figure out how to handle that. So not only do you get to clean up Delfino Plaza, which is the hub world, but tons of levels that you can warp to within it as well. Of course, these levels have specific goals that aren't just clean up the area. Like Super Mario 64, which came before it, here you're collecting stars. But now they're called shines. That is fantastic. Each goal in the game nets you one, and there are 120 in all. It's an inventive game, and it certainly has its ardent fans, but the controls to me don't feel as natural as those in the Nintendo 64 game did. Still, it's the only proper Mario adventure that we got on the GameCube. You can also play this one in HD and in widescreen on the Switch console/handheld hybrid thingy-majig if you want. However, they still kept the same frame rate, which is 30 frames per second. I'd recommend that you give this one a try, but I imagine that most people probably already have. This is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance from Nintendo. This is a tactical RPG, and I usually love these. And this one is no exception, as it's truly a fun time. If you've played tactical RPGs before, then you'll be right at home here. If you haven't, the game guides you pretty well so you can learn quickly. Basically, you have a limited amount of space that each character can move. When they meet an enemy, they can choose to attack. Then you get a cutscene showing the battle that takes place between the two characters. Experience is gained no matter what, but if you successfully complete a move or dodge, you'll get more. Different characters have different abilities. For example, an archer can attack from farther away or even from a diagonal. Once all of your characters have taken a turn, then the enemy gets to take their turn. Fortunately, when you get attacked, you'll often try to counterattack. I love this stuff. Your weapons have health meters and they don't last forever. Also, you need to be sure not to let your characters die, otherwise they're gone for good. They don't come back to life, this isn't a video game. Oh, I mean, yeah. There's also lots of dialogue that can happen during a battle. Usually this isn't annoying at all. Still, I love how this game has a great pace to it, and it's not slower because it's 3D like Shining Force 3 on the Saturn kind of felt. This is highly recommended. You should play it. Every time I play this next one, I'm always surprised at how much I enjoy it. It should be way more popular, but instead, it isn't. This one's called Battalion Wars. It was developed by Kuju London and published by Nintendo. This is a lighthearted military real-time strategy game, though the strategy part isn't laid on super thick, so it's easily approachable. You control the Green Army, which of course are the good guys. You fight the Red Army, who all have exaggerated Russian accents.
The frontier cowboys are approaching our position.
In each mission, you have certain units to use, like infantry, bazooka guys, and the like. You can have them follow you, stand their ground while you continue to run around, have them occupy machine guns, plenty of options. You can even drive vehicles like tanks and other such things. The control is simple, but it can take a bit to get used to the commands for giving orders to all troops, switching troop types, and things like that. But you'll figure it out before the game ramps up the difficulty too much. Of course, each mission has its very own goal, like stealing this vehicle and driving it all the way back to your base, which isn't exactly close, by the way. Naturally, you have a time limit during this particular mission. Other missions might have you defending a base while it constantly gets attacked from multiple directions. I really like how this one is put together. It's brisk and quite fun. Even the tutorials in the beginning are fun, and I usually hate tutorials. It supports widescreen, as you can see, and generally it looks pretty nice. The voices from your troop are funny, but fortunately they're not overdone to the point where they get annoying.
There goes nothing.
This is definitely a recommended one if you like tactical style games. This is only available for the mighty Gamecube, but there was a sequel that was made for the Wii. Here's Kirby Airride from HAL and Nintendo. I like racing games, and Kirby's kinda cool, so I was looking forward to trying this one out. Basically, you have no gas or brake, you only steer. Well, actually, you do technically have a brake, but it doubles as your boost button. You hold it down to build up a charge, and the longer you hold it down, the more powerful your boost will be. But you slow down while holding it. Kirby can also swallow some creatures for a limited amount of temporary power-ups, like spikes to knock out the enemies. Or a wheel, which does, well, actually I'm not entirely sure what's special about the wheel. The control in this one is very twitchy and it's extremely difficult to master. Even worse is that the camera is twitchy as well, sometimes making it difficult to see upcoming bottomless pits as the game moves super fast. Speaking of which, if you get motion sickness at all, avoid this game. I gotta say that I didn't find much fun to be had here, which is why I suppose I never see it on anyone's recommended games list. Oh well, I just had to try it for myself. There's a top ride minigame that's pretty cool though. Here it plays from an overhead perspective, kind of like Super Sprint or Super Off-Road. You can control it like those games, or you can choose a push where you want to go style of control. You even get limited weapons to help you out. This minigame is the best part of the whole package. Oh, and this is another game that'll let you use that broadband adapter for some LAN play. They're making a sequel to this for the stimulating Switch 2 console, which has just been released at the time of this video. I think it could be good if they fix a lot of the things here, and hopefully they do. As for the title on the GameCube here though, you're much better off playing Mario Kart Double Dash and or F-Zero GX. A racing game that's more fun but completely different is GT Cube from MTO. It was only released in Japan. This is a follow-up to their GT Advance racing games, which were on the Game Boy Advance, which is why this one's called Cube. It really doesn't get much more clever than that. This one is basically Gran Turismo Light. You race real cars on fictional circuits. If you win each heat, you are awarded more cars and more parts, though the car parts are mostly just cosmetic. You need certain cars in your garage before you can access certain races. After you complete the beginner's class, you move to the medium class, where now you'll be required to get a license to enter the races. These consist of several short tests that you can take as many times as you want. They're much more simple and forgiving than the tests in Gran Turismo. After that, you can enter the heats, and you need to complete 2 laps instead of just 1. I think you get the idea of how this game progresses. Instead of going for realism, they went with a cel-shaded look which was extremely popular back in the day. I think it works well for this game. I do wish there were a greater variety of courses to race on though. Also, it's a bit too easy. However, it's very friendly to English speakers, so give it a go if you like games like this. This is Wario World from Nintendo, but it was developed by Treasure. You play as Wario, who is basically evil Mario. Very clever. This is more or less a 3D game, but the camera always faces the same way, well, mostly. A little more than 2.5D, but not quite 3D. Maybe 2.75 or 2.76D. You punch and slam into enemies, and you can throw them as well. There are blocks that you can destroy if you see an X mark on them. You can also butt smash into underground rooms. You'll have to collect lots of red crystals in order to fight the boss of that particular level. Fortunately, you don't need to grab every single one. You collect lots of coins and you can spend them on extra life and things like that. The stages can be extremely large, especially the farther you get into the game. As a result, there aren't a ton of different levels and the game can feel a bit short, just like, well, never mind. The bosses are your typical Nintendo fare, requiring 3 hits to defeat. Well, that is, except for the ones that require more hits, which are most of them. Each stage's final level is the boss of the entire area. These guys are obviously a lot tougher, but hey, that's Treasure for you. They are also quite a lot of fun. You can continue right where you died, even during boss fights, just as long as you have enough money. It's pretty tough not to, so you should be good. The graphics are generally quite nice, and the music is fantastic, full of energy. I do sometimes wish that Wario would shut the hell up though. He says a lot of the same things again and again. Treasure mostly did a great job on this one, and it's rare that I hear people mention it. Do you like Halo? How about Candy Crush? Well then too bad, because none of these next games have anything to do with either of those. So get wrecked. Here's Tales of Symphonia from Namco. This was also released on the PlayStation 2, but only in Japan. This is part of Namco's Tales series, which is basically their Final Fantasy in that the games don't really have anything to do with one another except for some gameplay or design mechanics. You play as Lloyd, and you're on a quest to save the entire world. You have party members who come and go. As you wander around dungeons or the overworld map, battles are indicated by creatures who do not represent the monsters you end up fighting if you touch them. The battles themselves are very action-oriented. You move, run around, swing with your sword just like a real action game. Your other party members also attack on their own, but you can give them strategies on how to do so if you like. Most of the battles are pretty fast and are over quickly, so that's nice. The characters can be quite chatty during these battles, but fortunately, there's an option to turn that off.
Don't even try it. Don't overdo it. First aid. Don't even try it. Don't overdo it.
Since you're Lloyd, you can also use a bracelet thingy that changes functions in different parts of the game. Lucky for you, the plot decides what it needs to do. I played through this one back when it came out and generally had fun, though I did feel that it was a bit long-winded. The dungeons all have puzzle elements to them and need to be solved to progress. Back then, I jokingly called this a puzzle game with a story, but today I think that description might be a little harsh. But really, get ready for some puzzles. The graphics used the cell shading technique, which is an interesting look for an RPG. The characters are all a bit too cute to take seriously, which kind of lessens the impact of the story, at least for me. Still, generally, it's a good game and it comes on 2 discs, so get comfy. This has since been re-released on a bunch of modern and modern-ish consoles. This is PN03 from Capcom, which is exclusive to the Gamecube. This is basically a third-person shooter. You're a mercenary working for a mysterious client who chimes in giving you mission objectives and the like. You shoot pulses from your palm thanks to the suit that you wear. You can also jump, dodge, and even do some special attacks. Your life bar is the green meter, and your special attacks use up the orange meter. There are orbs around to refill both. After each room, you see how well you did, and you get some bonus points if you did decently enough. You want as many points as you can, because they are also your currency. You have a timer in the upper right which counts down and allows you to chain combos for more points. If it reaches 0, your combo ends. There are giant red globes scattered throughout most levels which act as shops. Here, you can power up your suit's abilities and even buy new suits. Nothing is cheap, but fortunately, enemies in higher levels reward you with more points. Controlling the game is a bit awkward, as it doesn't use the dual stick layout. Turning requires hitting a diagonal on the analog stick, so overall the control is slower than it ideally could be. Back then, dual stick control for a third-person game like this wasn't unheard of, but it was still fairly uncommon. It's forgivable though, as the game usually doesn't overwhelm you beyond the control's abilities to deal with it all. Overall, I have to say that I kinda love this game. I might put it in a future criminally underrated games episode and talk about it more in depth, as I really think this needs more love. Here's Cubivore from Atlas. Oh man, what a strange game this is. You're a cube that is born at the beginning of the game. Your goal in life is to eat everything you can and eventually return the color and wilderness to the world. It was taken away by the colorless cubes who have pieces of raw meat on them. You hop around eating grass and cars that can keep your stomach full. If you see another cube thing, you're gonna want to eat it. You then absorb its powers and mutate. Survival of the fittest. Doing this makes you become stronger. The more you mutate, the more powers and abilities you'll have. However, different colors grant different abilities. They can be mixed and matched, and you'll attract more females if you're made up of mostly one color. Once you beat the first boss, a piece of raw meat is attached to your body. So, what are you gonna do with your meat? That's right, you can mate. Look at all these sexy females. Ugh. Once you mate, a child is born, and he has more limbs to his cube than you did. You now play as the child, and the previous cube you were playing is now dead. I guess that was a wild night of mating. If you collect heart cards, you can attract more females. The areas in the game can be rather big and take quite a long time to explore. You'll need to eat certain types of cards to restore wilderness to the land, as you can't walk on the plain pink stuff. There's even a day-night cycle, and the sun itself is a cube. The control is quite odd, but you do get used to it quickly, probably because the game itself is odd. The visuals are extremely simple, and certainly don't try to push the console to its limits or anything. But for the game, they work. The music is also not very complex, and again it fits right in with whatever the hell is going on here. I like it when games take risks, like this one certainly did. Of course, it's perfectly suitable being on the Gamecube, since the console itself is a cube. My biggest complaint would probably be the camera. You can control it, but it still feels kinda bad at times. If you want to try something different, definitely give this one a shot. Here's Mario Kart Double Dash from Nintendo. We only featured this very briefly in the montage in the first GameCube episode. This one lets you select 2 different characters for each kart. One rides on the back and uses the items, while the other drives the kart. In 2-player co-op play, each player controls a character. You can swap their positions by pressing that exciting Z button. Personally, I never understood the appeal of the 2-character kart, as it doesn't add anything of value to the gameplay. The AI in this one seems a bit more ruthless than other Mario Kart games, and perhaps the rubber banding has been dialed back just a little. Or maybe I'm imagining things. There are some awesome courses in this one, like the Donkey Kong track, which is awesome. However, there are some boring tracks as well, like this tiny little oval circuit. It can make things absolutely insane with all of the items ricocheting around everywhere though. This features LAN play, and you can have up to 16 people playing at a time on 4 GameCubes. This is the game that I used my broadband adapter on once for this feature. Definitely worth the purchase. Okay, it really wasn't. Overall, this is a fantastic game as you'd expect, but I do feel that it was a step back from the Nintendo 64 game in the overall fun department. Alright, get ready for an 8-minute montage of games! I'm just kidding, but I do have 4 more to show you that originally I was kind of hesitant to play, but I'm glad that I did. Here's Lost Kingdoms from Activision and From Software. It's another one that's exclusive to the GameCube. This is an action RPG, but not any action RPG. This one is played using a card system. Normally, I don't even like that concept, so I kinda dreaded even trying this one. But you know what? It's not half bad. Basically, you can assign different cards to 4 of the buttons on the GameCube controller. You press a button, and whatever that card is executed immediately. For example, one card can let you slash as if you have a sword, or another spawns the plant from Little Shop of Horrors to peck away at the enemy. Each card has what's basically a life meter, meaning you can keep pressing the button until it drains. Or if it spawns a creature to fight for you, it'll stay around until it drains, and the enemies can indeed kill it. But hey, at least they're not attacking you when they're doing that. Once a card is used up, it goes away forever. It's then replaced with the next card in the deck. You run around the world and will get into random battles, and the battlefield will take place right where you are, though you're limited in overall area. You can find more cards in treasure chests, and you can also buy cards and things at the shop. You'll want as many cards as you can hold, and sadly, that's not very many. I ran out of cards when fighting this big guy, and when that happens, there's basically nothing you can do except die and go back to your last save point or abort and try again. Kinda gives it a survival horror vibe to it where you can run out of ammo. So yes, you really need to use your cards wisely. I do wish I could orient the camera at a non-diagonal perspective, but other than that, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed playing this one. A year later, Lost Kingdoms 2 came out, again, exclusive for the GameCube. This is mostly more of the same, but of course with a different story. The card system and using them is the same, and a lot of the same cards from the first game return here. Of course, they did add some new ones. However, this one changes things up in that you no longer have random battles. The enemies are all wandering around on the map, and you run right up to them and fight them without a transition. Because of this, you need to be careful when opening treasure chests or talking to people, because if you're not quite close enough, you could accidentally end up using a card when you didn't mean to. Wait until that exclamation mark appears, then you can press the button. You also have proper dual-stick camera control, which is nice. No more snapping only to the diagonals. Unfortunately, as a result of these changes, the game now runs at half the frame rate. I don't think that this will bother most people, but I can certainly feel it. The game just seems a little slower. It's an interesting update, and I'm kind of split on if I like the changes over the first game or not. What do you think? After enjoying Lost Kingdoms, I decided to try Battalion Kaidos from Namco. This is another game based around cards, and it comes on 2 discs. Man, what is it with the love of cards? First off, I've got to say that this game looks incredible. Seriously, it's got to be one of the most visually impressive RPGs of its time. It looks like what Chrono Cross on the PlayStation was doing, but the world here is just so much more alive and detailed. It's absolutely gorgeous. The music from Motoi Sakuraba is fantastic as well, one of his best scores outside the Shining series. You encounter enemies on the map and then fight them. You choose a few cards for attack and then for defense on the enemy's turn. You don't have much time to make a selection when you're on defense. You get a status screen after every single operation, which honestly is kind of off-putting. But fortunately, you can turn that off in the options. I got to the first boss who seems to have a quadrillion hit points. It was impossible, he just wouldn't go down. I died and then reloaded an old save. I tried again and I beat him pretty easily. Turns out he was just a mid-boss. Since it's an RPG, you level up, but in order to do so, you need to first visit a church once you have enough experience points. You then pray and your level goes up. You also raise your class here. Once you do get to a higher class, the gameplay becomes a lot better, as now you not only have a bigger deck, but you can also use more cards at a time in a fight. I gotta say, I hated how this game played at first, but once you power up a bit, it's pretty good. They start you off fairly crippled. Talking to the NPCs can sometimes be slow and grueling, as occasionally the screen will fade out and then back in before and after the conversation. Why? And then there's this. Gross. Overall, I was very surprised by this one as well, and I want to keep playing. I think it would be better without the cars though, as this is a niche genre within an already niche genre.
Let's get it on. This! Yeah! Ha!
The sequel, which is actually a prequel called Battalion Kaidos Origins, came to the Cube 3 years later. In Japan, it's simply called Battalion Kaidos 2. It's published by Nintendo themselves this time. This is another one that spans 2 discs. Of course, this game uses a similar premise of using cards, but some things have changed. The cards are now arranged differently and feel less responsive to select, but you're given more time to do it. There's also a large emphasis on copying things onto blank cards and then using them elsewhere right from the get-go. You have a very flamboyant robot helping you out in the battles. Here, you don't need to pray to level up. It happens automatically like any normal RPG. You also get to sneak around sometimes because stealth in games is pretty popular, I guess. It makes good use of the analog stick, I suppose. One thing that hasn't changed is the fading out and then back in during some conversations. Someone must have thought that this was a really good idea and that people would love it. Again, why? There's no need. It just slows things down. I do feel that this game is a bit more accessible to the masses, as it's harder to go wrong with the cards, it holds your hand a little more, and it's a bit less complex in the beginning. But at the same time, I'm enjoying Part 1 much more, at least for the moment. The graphics are still pretty good, but from what I've played so far, it doesn't look quite as nice, but that could just be the boring environments that the game starts out in. The music is also still quite good, but I feel overall that the score is less impressive. I might be more interested in this one if I finish Part 1, but it seems like it stands on its own, and you don't need to play the first game before you jump into this one. Hell, it might even be better if you play this one first. Both of these games exist in remastered form on the Switch and PC. And there you go, that's the GameCube for you. This legacy, of course, would continue into the Wii and even the Wii U hardware. Man, I miss the days when Nintendo would compete with and even some cases surpass this competition on a hardware level. So, what are some of your favorite memories and games on the GameCube? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
It's Chibi Robo for the Nintendo Gamecube! Non-stop action and excitement from the second you press the start button. Help Chibi Robo defeat the evil communist bastards one piece of trash at a time. Only the hardcore need apply here. Your skill level needs to be set to the max. There is way too much communism in this house and it needs to be defeated right now. Plug into action, plug into adventure, plug into excitement. Chibi Robo! Use your cunning and wits to get past the commies as they try to put you down. There are no barriers that can contain Chibi Robo's righteousness and justice. Die and go to hell, you evil alien commie! Use your freedom copter to deliver justice to different parts of the living room. Get out of the way, asswipe! Chibi Robo coming through! The other game consoles are too weak to handle the extreme excitement and fast-paced action that is Chibi Robo! Watch out for the evil alien communist frog. The only good frog is a dead frog. Travel through space and time in this intense action adventure. Chibi Robo, available for the Nintendo GameCube.